Right, Dan, go on. Roll us in.
Right. It's episode 10. You know who we are by now.
And if you didn't, it's the Archive podcast for new listeners.
Oh, yeah, and if you are a new listener.
Because we're growing week on week, you know. I'm Joel Harris, PT. And we have reached double digits on the old...
On the old podcast. Who would have thought, like...
Yeah, triple digits
Not
soon.
me. Look at us. Who would have thought? Not me.
But
no. Thanks
everyone for listening. Listeners to keep growing. Downloads on Spotify creeping up. So thanks for all the support, actually. What we want from you, though, is a bit more input on the breakdown that we do every Thursday or Friday on Instagram. It's been a little bit quiet recently. We went off the boil the 1 week where we had commitments on. But we're back better than ever. It's basically a bit of a live Q&A, getting some questions from this current podcast you're listening to or any previous podcast, and then just answering general questions that you have surrounding health, fitness, lifestyle, whatever you want to ask us. Just come have a chat, really, if you want. Makes it a bit more easier when it's an interactive process. But would be nice to have you on. Apart from that, we're into episode 10. Which is...
And if you don't know what we are on Instagram, it is archive.podcast. If you're not from the Instagram. So now you know where to find us.
No excuses now.
No excuses now.
Give us a follow. Share our stuff.
Right. So basically, things are starting to look a bit more normal now when it comes to, like, you know, shops opening, pubs opening. So me and Joel want to get on you really and just help you lot do a bit of damage control when you get back on the pints.
Yeah, because it is damage control.
Or the cocktails, you know.
Preferably cocktails, but we're going to why those should be limited. But the thing is all about damage control, because when you're on the beers, you lose a bit of that rational thinking. So these words that we speak today, try and do as best you can with the knowledge we give you. It's not going to be perfect, but it's about being a little bit better than we could be. So
yeah, these points me and Joel are discussing. Sorry to interrupt you. Are more anecdotally speaking. So from experience, you know, young lads in the fitness realm, we do our fair share of drinking. You know, when you're younger, you're quite social, so you go out drinking, you know, with folk. And then blending that with the fitness as well, you know, as me and Joel are fitness professionals, we've developed a little bit of IQ around, you know, drinking and mixing that with our training sort of lifestyle. So I'll let Joel continue on what he was about to say as before I rudely interrupted.
Yeah, surviving 3 years at Cardiff Met, you know, that's where this come about. So basically had a little bit of a drink to celebrate my graduation, because it should have been on either Wednesday or Thursday. So we had a little bit of drinks, and upon my time across going out week on week in Cardiff Met and ruining my training, what should have been, I still saw some progress. And was it as good as it could have been? Probably not. But like I said, it's about being better than we were or could have been. So when it comes to the drinking side of things, I think me and Dan discussed 3 topics of conversation that we wanted to relay to you, where you can make some better decisions around to help either your 1, training, 2, nutrition, and 3, sleep. Because I think there are so many other factors that come into it, but they're the 3 things that we've decided to pick up on that are of most importance. Like we said, there's no scientific backing behind it. There probably is behind some of the stuff, but we haven't really gone out and delved the research of this. It's just been learning from our mistakes and relaying them to you. So you do as we say, not as I do. Because I wish I had these words of wisdom upon me Saturday, but it didn't happen. And Sunday was a bit of a write-off, but we're here now on Wednesday. So, Dan, if you want to kick us off.
Did you just say Wednesday?
I said Monday, bro.
Wednesday. Jesus, heavy weekend, was it, bro? You just said Wednesday. I can't
I said Monday.
No, you said Wednesday.
Same.
And now we're here on Wednesday. Anyway, yeah.
like I said, I would have needed those words on Saturday. I've missed 4 days. But no. Dan, kick us away with topic of conversation number one. We'll go with the nutrition, because I feel like that's quite a big topic.
So when you go out, you don't really, I think people in general tend to miss tracking calories when it's in liquid form anyway. So, when people drink their calories, that's often like a large mistake a lot of people make, is that they don't track liquids. So like, like fruit juices and stuff like that, pop, or if you're American, soda, fizzy drinks, that kind of thing. People tend to miss out tracking those. And I think the same goes for alcohol. People just assume that there's not no calories, but it's not a consideration really, or it definitely wasn't for me initially, is what calories are in my beverage. So I would say that is a big area of loss, because alcohol has got 7 calories per gram, so it's more than protein, more than carbs. So for every gram of alcohol, you're getting 7 calories. And that's aside from the other content of the beverage you're drinking. So if you're drinking cocktails, there might be a fruit juice in there, there might be a pop in there, or a soda in there, and you're getting all sorts of calories from that as well.
Yeah, flavoured ciders is another one.
Depending on how much you can put away, you could be drinking up to 2,000, up to 3,000 calories per night out, and that's just from alcohol. Especially if you're drinking beer. I think a bottle of Corona is like 170 calories.
Yeah.
So 170 calories times, what do you say that the typical person can put away? Not me, because I drink about 4.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're Dan, don't bother tracking your alcohol, because you'll never get through enough bottles to
you'll be in
a
deficit.
Yeah. No, I don't know. We'll go typical, like, not rugby lad. We'll go typical typical drinker. We'll go probably about 6 to 8 drinks.
I was going to say 15.
Bro, if you're seeing off 15 bottles, like
over the period of 9 hours.
So we're doing a day shift then?
No, from no, we'll say 6 to 8 beers. We'll go 6 to 8 beers, just to be sensible. I don't want to tarnish my,
Yeah, so if you're portioning off 6 to 8 beers and you've got 170 calories per beer, I'm going to do the math now, 850 plus. So you're looking at probably about 1,000 to about 1,200 calories. Rough estimate. Don't get your calculators out on me.
And not many people would have accommodated to that, I don't believe. Nobody's tracking Corona, are they?
No, and I think if it's a one-off thing, it's probably not essential. But I know some people like to go out weekend on weekend, and it's the weekend warriors where they're in a deficit all week, they're doing really well, and then it comes to the weekend and they have a big binge, and then they wonder why they're not losing weight, because they're like, well, I've been in a deficit all week. This is probably why. And if it's a one-off thing, then, let loose, live a little. But if it's happening week on week and it's probably the downfall to your diet then it's probably wise that you start cluing up around the nutrition side of things. So track your beer, track your alcohol. And that's why I said earlier, depending on what drink you have, is more necessary to track than others. So
yeah, if it's a once in, I would say, I agree with you. I would say if it's just like a once every month thing, people are into their fitness. I know a lot of people, they don't necessarily go out drinking very regularly. It's like a once every month thing. Or if you're a student and it's more of a daily thing, then
daily.
I would recommend probably not listening to us, because it's not going to make much difference anyway. But for the majority of people, I would say that it's not a massive big deal that I would say that it's necessary to track, just because it's such a rare occasion that I would just say perhaps pull back throughout the week if you know you're going to go out for an event, because typically what a day looks like, you could be going out for a meal, having a few cocktails in the meal. You'd have to account for that, so you'd have to backload calories from the day for that anyway. So you've already put yourself in a better position by the time you go out drinking. You've eaten a little bit of fatty food, and then you're on the bevs. So what I would say is, if you're going to drink a decent amount of alcohol throughout that day, probably pull calories from the whole week in general. That's what I would say. Rather than just being super, super focused on tracking that one day and then mitigating all that after, do the work before, pull back a few calories each day across the week, and then prepare yourself for that one night out where you're still in a relatively good position over the week. So you could be in a maintenance calories. You could have touched your maintenance calories across the week just from that one day, or you could still be in a deficit because you pulled back throughout the week. Do you get me?
Yeah, and I think it reduces some of that social anxiety as well around it, because I know a lot of people who do actually take their health and fitness seriously get a bit on edge around when they're going out for a meal because it's not properly tracked. You know what I mean? They're like, oh God, how am I going to get this on MyFitnessPal? Things like that. But if you reduce your calories throughout the week, like Dan said, so it means that, say, we'll talk on averages, you're 2,000 calories throughout the week. So you need 14,000 calories for that week to maintain. And then if you pull back, say, 300 calories from each of the days, you almost get an extra day's worth of eating that you can spill over, and you still hit your maintenance calories. So you're 1,500 calories extra. And then that can reduce the anxiety around that meal, because a lot of places where you go, say you go out to a nice restaurant, you're not going to get those really, really high calorie meals unless you're eating a shit lot of food. So it means that you can take that stress away from eating it, and you don't really have to, worry too much about what you order. You can still make better decisions, but you also have that little bit of flexibility in your eating, as well as you've got the alcohol on top. You're allowed to make those decisions, because when we go out, we want to enjoy nice food. The reason why we go out to eat is to enjoy nice food. So if you're subconsciously thinking in the back of your mind, it's going to take away that enjoyment factor from going out to eat. So yeah, like Dan said, backload your calories, about 300 each day, depending on how big your bank of calories is for the week. If you're dropping 300 and that puts you really low, then you might want to drop less and then drop some more the week after. What we try and avoid is dropping calories too much to a point where we feel the need to binge, and then we overeat because we've dropped our calories too low. It's about finding that balance between taking away enough to allow us the flexibility, but not taking too much that it provides that urge to binge. Because that's what happens. If you starve yourself, your body wants food, you subconsciously eat a lot more.
And what you got to consider what you're going to do to yourself then. If you know you've had a really bad weekend or a couple of bad days food-wise, like Joel said, you're going to go into that binge mindset, and that's going to have an effect on the performance in the gym across the next week as well. So the next few days, you don't want the next few days after to suffer in the gym just because you've had one weekend out and your eating has been relatively poor. So you don't want to extend that sort of like poor position for progress by starving yourself because you feel like, you've done too much damage, so you've got to mitigate that. When really, as long as you manage it well and you're pretty well prepared for that weekend, you can kind of get around it without as much damage to the next week of training as possible. What I will say on the nutrition front is, it's not just the bevs that's got to consider. After you've had a few beverages, that that kebab shop is looking really appealing at the end of the night, for a lot of people.
That lamb doner leg sizzling on that. Well, what's it called? The rotisserie.
Garlic chili, sauce of salad boss.
You know what I mean?
We love it.
But
yeah, I would say, that's one thing I would categorically say is just a cut out. You don't need any more calories at that point.
No, and I think is quite tempting because it's there. You've got you got the beer goggles on, and you're like, oh, I need some food to sober me up a little bit, this and that. At the end of the day, is a hard decision to say no to because it looks so appealing at the time, but you'll thank yourself the next morning. Like,
I
that
don't want to
kebab
be,
is doing
yeah,
nothing.
I don't want to be a complete realist and advocate. You know, me and Joel are pretty loose and pretty realistic on some of our principles. You know, so like you could say we've got the sort of like onus on like, nah, it ain't that serious, you know, go out and have fun and all that. So like our nutrition principles are pretty much like enjoy your food, you know, don't be, you know, a stickler, don't be one of those people who just live and breathe and die the gym, constantly working,
By
be,
them,
you know,
yeah.
an overall boring person. But at the same time, I don't want to advocate, you know, it's just one night, go and have that kebab, enjoy yourself, because at the end of the day, you've just done so much damage to yourself by binging on alcohol. Binge drinking as a whole is pretty unhealthy. So I'm gonna be that guy now and say no to the kebab at the end of the night because you simply just don't need it. And you know, poor food choices, they do have an effect on your recovery as well. So
Yeah, you should always look
the
to eat to perform.
I would go as far to say like the kebab at the end of the night is probably going to make your hangover worse.
Yeah, like, I think it gets to a point, you know, if you've been eating healthy for quite a while and you've been on, like, say you've been on a little mini cut and you've made sensible food choices, that first high fat meal, when you come back to it, ruins your digestive system. I find it the next day, you get really bad stomach, you feel a little bit foggy, and
Yeah.
even though you might be used to having a bit more higher fat, if you just go out and then have that kebab, it could throw you in a worse standpoint. I always advocate eating to perform. So a lot of people go to eat the way they look, but I think if you eat to perform, your body will come as a result of it. You perform hard,
Yeah.
you know, you eat the right calories for you, you know, it's all about balance. Don't be like, I need to eat greens and meat all day. Is trying to find that balance, and you should always look to try and eat to perform your best and consider the calories in it, and the physique will come. So when it comes to the night out stuff, that kebab could put you in a worse position the next day. We're not sitting here saying don't eat that kebab on a scientific basis. What I've noticed is you wake up, you get a high fat meal in, because that's all they are. The choices you make, you probably go chippy, kebab shop, burger shop, any of those places, and you're going to have a high fat meal wherever you go. So
Yeah.
probably looking to cut
You're
that
gonna
out is going to put us in a better position.
and you're gonna get about another 1,000 calories on top of the alcohol as well. So if you are one of them people that can put away 12, 15 bottles of Corona, or, you know, and then you add another 1,000 calories worth of kebab meat on the top of that, you're 4,000 calories in the hole just from one night, circa 4,000 calories, would you say?
Yeah, easily. And if not
So
more, because
to prepare for that, you'd have to pull away a decent amount of calories across the week. So you're not only making your training suffer the previous week, you're probably going to make it suffer for the following week as well, because if you've spilled over and you haven't got that sort of like rational sort of thinking, or you haven't got that, you know, sort of second mind telling you, look, it ain't that deep, just carry on as normal. 90% of people just go, look, I'm going to cut out all carbs, or I'm going to go on an aggressive deficit this week to make up for the shit that I did on the weekend. So you've now extended that from one night to 2 weeks.
yeah,
Of it's not going to be a massive amount, but you've got 2 weeks there where you're not in an optimal place.
no. And for a lot of people, that can be quite a daunting time, because you're not performing as well in the gym. You're eating a lot less. Psychologically, that's going to throw you off dieting and training. So think about the decisions you make around the food. Like, I got a graphic up from the Fitness Chef about low calorie alcohol. So we'll put it up on the Instagram. But when it comes to alcohol, there are some better decisions you can make. So obviously your spirits are going to be a lot less calorie dense than lagers, which are made with hops, wheat, things like that, and the flavored ciders. You can get light beer, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you drink enough of it, it's still going to make a difference no matter what you drink.
Yeah, exactly.
So when we say about training and nutrition, I've got a really good habit of not eating on the night. I've broken that cycle of I need a kebab after, but my problem is still the next day. And that's when a lot of people fall short as well, is that next day you wake up,
the
hangover.
hangover.
Absolute shit. You're there.
All you want is a McDonald's or pizza, or
Yeah, and you may have seen on my story, I love a Sunday Domino's. I account for that because I don't eat the day before. I'll limit all I'll have on that Sunday is basically Domino's and a couple of protein shakes. And you know what? Optimal or not, it's my routine now. It gets me through the Sunday. But
also Joel doesn't. I wouldn't say you drink now anyway, especially at the university every weekend. So that's not a weekly thing.
No,
is it really?
No. But I wanted to put in place some things to do around the hangover, surrounding your nutrition, which is going to put you in a better place to not go out and eat everything in sight. So first thing I do is just get up. Just get out of bed, have a shower, drink a pint of water or two, rehydrate yourself a little bit. Once you're out and about, just get up for a walk. I feel like that's where I fall short is I lays about in bed all day and you just get worse. There's no like, oh, I'm going to get better throughout the day. It's always, I'm going to feel a lot worse. Because we'll touch on sleep. You get a lack of sleep.
Just breaking the cycle of lazy. It's breaking that cycle of just moping, really, innit?
Yeah, and that's where people are like, oh, how do you stay motivated all the time? You're not motivated all the time. And that's one of the times where you've just got to get up and do it. Ain't nothing to it but just to do it. So around the hangover food, that's when cravings, I feel, are at an all-time high as well. So how I personally deal with it is, like I said, I will limit extra carb consumption, extra fat consumption. I will have high protein meals, if not protein shakes, throughout the day, because I know for a fact I ain't got the willpower to say no on a hangover, and I know I'm going to have a pizza. So what I will do is I will do damage limitation, have the protein shakes. Like Mark Ripito said, I think it was Mark Ripito. He said, if you want to eat a pizza, have 3 scoops of protein before it so you don't binge on that pizza. I think that's one of his quotes. I know a fitness professional with the name Mark said it. So is that principle? Eat your high protein meals. Eat your high protein meals if you are going to binge out, but then make sensible decisions around it. Try not to binge, but easier said than done.
Like, the thing is, understand how many calories you usually have in a typical meal. Like, if you have, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with having a pizza when you're hungover. It's just the way people eat that pizza. Like, one serving of that pizza, I would say, is 2 slices. What would you say in a typical slice pizza? 250 calories. What would the average person have per meal? 500, 700 calories. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about average for my meals anyway. People eat that. You need to polish that whole large pizza off. That's 4 meals in one sitting. Do you get me?
I feel attacked.
You should. You should.
Yeah. Okay.
Sort it out, bro. No, but yeah,
off.
you understand my point, though, don't you?
Yeah, and is about damage limitation. So when we have a takeaway, our sense of when to stop goes out the window. And like Dan said, if you like a typical meal for me from Domino's would be a large pizza, maybe another one on top. You know what I mean? But I'm a greedy bastard.
A large pizza with the side of a large pizza.
Yeah. And yeah. All right. But yeah, that's the thing. When you're there, think about what you're eating as well as how much you're eating. So try and share your takeaway with someone. Like, a problem shared is a problem halved. If you only buy one large pizza and there's 2 of you, you can't polish all that off. Like, just don't eat as much. Just don't be a greedy bastard. Just try your best. Just do not eat everything in sight. Just do not.
We bordering on now realistic advice and bad advice. Nah. No, you get it though. So it's just all about like instilling the considerations to have. Like, if Joel has that large pizza after a night out, he understands what he's doing. he knows that he probably shouldn't, and that's the important thing. If he still does, that's bad darts from Joel. But for most people,
Yeah.
as long as you know really what to do, like a lot of people, I feel like they don't really like
Don't have the first clue.
understand.
No,
Yeah,
and
and they
that's
kind
why
of
I
just
think
write off
tracking's.
those days.
Yeah, that's why I
Those
think tracking's a good point. So I'll put it into perspective. My pizza is about 2,700 calories. I know roughly I'm on about 3,200 a day. That leaves me an extra 500 calories worth of protein, which is about 125 gram. There, if I drink if I drink 125 gram protein, I hit my protein target roughly for that day, give or take about 20 gram, but I'm still on track for my calorie target. So that pizza I'm eating isn't optimal, but it's not throwing me completely out of whack. If anything, it's just, if you're following the whole, if it fits the macros, it's pretty much there. I don't advocate just eating shit for it, but at the same time, I'm not throwing my weekend completely out the window.
And if you're one of those people who are quite comparative, because people in the fitness industry, by nature you do compare yourself to others. Don't compare yourself to Joel, because Joel, I would say, can get away with eating a full large pizza with a few protein shakes, simply because that pizza and those protein shakes probably, you could make that fit, couldn't you? That'd look like, at the end of that day, that your macro, if you just looked at macros, that'd look like a typical day weekend for you.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. In the grand scheme of things, I could eat that every day and probably get away with it because of the old if it fits your macros preference, which just is, if you hit your calories, your protein, your fats, your carbs, you're good, you can eat whatever you want. And that throws out the whole concept of food quality. Not that it entirely matters for body composition from what I've seen, but for performance standpoint, health, all those reasons, you should look at food quality as well.
Exactly what I was saying is, people who are a little bit, smaller, have got lower caloric needs, pizzas, like bad foods, quote unquote bad foods, are relatively easy to eat, calorie dense. It's easy to spill over on calories with food like that. Healthy foods are typically harder to eat a lot of, yeah?
Yeah.
So eating 2,000 calories of chicken, rice, and broccoli is a lot harder to eat than 2,000 calories of pizza.
Yeah.
So I would say, for smaller people with lower caloric needs, I would say be careful with foods like that in general. If you've got a higher caloric, output, you could probably get away with it. I would still encourage you not to. But for people who are, eating 2,500 calories a day, 2,000 calories a day, females, a lot of you eat even lower number than that. Stay away from the takeaway, I would say. And if you really fancy pizza, make it yourself. If you really want pizza that much, or if you really want a burger that much, make it yourself, because that way you can mitigate the things like ingredients, like you haven't got control over how many calories are in the sauce and the Domino's, the cheese, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to, as well, prep. So if you've got meals there, you're gonna gravitate towards pizzas because it's easy. It's there, is a takeaway. You don't have to do anything. If you've got meals already cooked up, they're there. They're a convenient source of food as well. You might opt for those. So try and do a bit of prep around it. Like, the only bad foods are the ones that you're intolerant to or you overeat. So those tend to be takeaways, things like that. So just try and avoid them as best you can. Put some prep in. And I think that basically covers your nutrition standpoint. From
with a little bit of waffle.
Damage control. That's going to be the best course of action. Just prep, limit your calories throughout the week as a bit of a take-home point. So limit your calories throughout the week if you know you're going out. Make some better decisions around the drinks that you make. So, for example, don't have a vodka with full fat or full sugar Coke. Have it with maybe the sugar-free stuff. Yeah. So avoid the late night aftermath takeaway, because that's a write-off. And then just prep for the next day, make the better decisions, get up, move about. I think covers a good.
Yeah, if you really want to save yourself, calories, I would say stay away from like lagers or, you know, fruit ciders. Everyone loves a Copperberg, but
Yeah,
that is
I'll tell you
just
what.
sugar.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put so the fitness chef does a really good graphic that I put up. I'll put that on the archive Instagram as a repost, and you can have a look at some of the better decisions to make there.
Mm-hmm.
Then, right, second pillar, we'll go with sleep.
Sleep.
Yeah,
Now,
because I feel like this is what throws me completely out of whack. Being a uni student, I've done the club closed at 4. You go back, you're still up with your mates. You've probably gone past that point of being tired, you know, and you don't get to bed till 6 o'clock. The sun's coming through the window at 9, and you're like, oh, I got a full day ahead of me. Whoa,
anyway,
what do I do?
There's only so much you can do for sleep at that point. If you're gonna go to sleep, if you're gonna go to bed at say 6 a.m, you've pretty much written off one night of good sleep.
Yeah.
So you can. It's just knowing what to expect. Is the next day probably avoid training because you're just not going to be ready for it. Understand that your performance in the following session after the day after your night out is probably going to suffer because your sleep has just been put out of whack. So what would you say? Because I would typically have just a lie in but not stay in bed all day.
Yeah.
On that one day.
Some things I've found to really help is if you black out your room, that's gonna really help. So I've recently started wearing an eye mask, and I've noticed if I wear an eye mask the night after drinking, my sleep quality improves slightly because I haven't got that light coming through. It's completely blacked out, you know what I mean? So you will sleep on a little bit longer than you typically do. That's my anecdotal evidence. And I think with people wearing eye masks, it's sort of backed up by the whole science behind it, blacked out room, all that stuff. So that's one thing I've noticed. I tend to drink some fluid upon going to bed. That doesn't help you sleep, but that'll help you the next day. So drink like a big pint of water before going to bed with some electrolytes in it if you've got it to help replenish some of the fluid you've lost. But the big thing I think for sleep is when to stop your drinking. So if you are someone that knows when to call it quits, when you've had enough and then you'll start to get on the waters a bit earlier in the nightclub, then that's probably good for you. Because I think there's some research I want to say is if you stop drinking 3 to 4 hours before you go to sleep, or stop drinking 3 to 4 hours before you go to sleep, it'll have some benefit on the sleep quality. Maybe not so much the quantity, but the quality of sleep you get. So when you drink, you can't really fall into that deep sleep,
No.
which is why you wake up feeling groggy. Even though you might have had a good kip, you might feel a bit groggy because you're not getting that good sleep that you need, and you're getting low sleep quality, and it's not ideal for you. And that's what could put you in a bit of, I still feel a bit under-recovered, undercooked, all that. So try and limit your drinking later on in the night. By all means, go hard at the prees, go out, enjoy yourself. But when it's coming to that time where, the drinks have hit you, you really you're sat there thinking, one more drink could tip me over the edge. That's probably the right time to start drinking some water in the club. And by God, right, hang on, if you stop your drinking early on in the club, you save yourself a lot of money because a lot of that damage is done after the point of no return. So, when you wake up the next morning and you check your bank statement, you think, oh, how much have I spent? A lot of that's after that one drink that you shouldn't have had.
If you order them 3 whiskey sours, 30 quid that is.
He's still salty about that.
For context, sorry to interrupt the story, but before COVID hit, myself, Joel, and one of our friends, Luke, we went to Cardiff. We were doing rounds, Joel had around 3 Coronas. Luke had around 3 Coronas. What did that come to? About 15 quid, if that.
Yeah, about
Joel, Dan, get the whiskey sours in. I was like, all right, no cap. I'll sort it. Walked up to the bar. Yeah. Had the receipt, the bill, £31. £31.
You just got pranked by the prank patrol.
Imagine doing one of your friends like that. That's dirty, that.
You wouldn't be
You've
my
done
mate.
me dirty there.
If you were
Anyway,
my mate, bro, I wouldn't have done it to you.
What
Count your
was I
blessings.
saying? Yeah. On the hydration front, I know it sounds a bit, people wouldn't go to this extreme, but I always order a glass of water when I order my alcohol. So I'll order, say, a vodka and orange, or vodka and diet lemonade or something like that, and I'll say, can I just have a glass of tap water with it as well?
Yeah, and that is probably one of the best things you can do. You're dehydrating yourself through alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Try and hydrate yourself a little bit. That's what I think normally causes the hangover is the dehydration, lack of water in. You get that headache, it's pounding head. That's probably from you haven't consumed enough water. I was going to say fluid, but alcohol fluid. You haven't consumed enough water.
The hangover comes from the depletion of glutathione. So glutathione is an antioxidant. So basically, when your liver processes alcohol, your body depletes itself of glutathione. So same thing as when you take like medication like paracetamol and things like that, you're depleting your body of glutathione. So what I would say is the next day, consume foods that are high in that antioxidant. So, vegetables, that kind of thing. I know mustard has got a lot of glutathione in it. Or if you're really, 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 really conscious of it, you can buy glutathione. You can buy liposomal glutathione. Take that, hangover, gone. So another consideration is people love to take a paracetamol before you go to bed, an ibuprofen or something like that to say, save me the headache in the morning. It's actually the worst idea, because that paracetamol is actually depleting you even more of glutathione, so you're putting yourself in a worse position. You might have that analgesic effect where the headache is gone, but you're putting yourself in a worse position in the long run because you're keeping that glutathione from replenishing itself. Bit of a tangent, but it's an important point that I want to just get across.
That was an absolute knowledge bomb. So you that like to go drink quite a lot, maybe invest in some glutathione.
Yeah, it's quite expensive for the good stuff. For the good stuff. I know College Sports Nutrition sell the supplement needs liposomal glutathione. Tastes like absolute arse, but I feel when I used it, I bought one bottle of it and I never bought it again, just because. But I did find it helped with the hangover front. Just get it down before you go to bed in the morning. Be careful with how much you take. Just take the recommended dose. And yeah, that's what I would say. I can't remember what Joe was saying because I've got a knack for interrupting.
So we were on the sleep front, and I think that's about it really on the sleep. There's not a lot
There's not a lot you can do once you've had that drink, but just
try and get a good night's sleep the next day.
What I would say is to mitigate the effects on your sleep the following night, don't stay in bed all day that day, because that sleep and wake cycle, your body doesn't want to. What I find especially is if I've stayed in bed all day, I really, really, really struggle to sleep the following night.
Yeah.
Because my body, when you go to bed, your body knows, right, it's time to go to sleep now. I don't know the ins and outs of the science of how it works because I'm not a sleep specialist. There's a guy on if you look, there's a good podcast on sleep.
Dr. Matthew Walker.
There's a guy called Matthew Walker on the Joe Rogan podcast. Or he's got a book called what's the book called? I've read it as well.
Is it The Art of Sleeping? Something like that. Science of Sleeping?
Something Sleeping. It's an orange cover. It's a wicked book. Really interesting. I think it's got quite a morbid title, like
Why we sleep.
Why we sleep. Well, it's not really morbid. Yeah, why we sleep. Wicked book. Anyway, if you want to know more about like sleep and that, touch on that. But what I was saying is, don't stay in bed all day because then your body doesn't recognize it's time to sleep. You're just going to be stewing in your own, gloop in bed. And then when it comes to bedtime the next day, you are just going to suffer. So I would say get up, stay active throughout the day. Earn your sleep as well throughout the day. Just because you had a shit sleep the night before, stay active in the day, and then make up for it the next day, or take a little nap in the day. Get up, do work. Try and be as productive as possible. Go out for walks, do a little bit of light exercise, nothing intense. So don't go lift. Go for a walk, things like that. Maybe do like a light aerobic session or something like that. If you're one of those weirdos that wants to train after a night out. And then sort the sleep. Just try and get back to a good sleep schedule as soon as possible. So you fucked it for that first day. Excuse my language. Make sure you don't mess up the next day.
Yeah, on that nap, be wary though. We have things called sleep cycles. Try and limit your nap. Try and limit your nap to about 30 minutes before you get into that deep sleep. Because if you wake up mid-sleep cycle, that's when you'll feel really groggy. You'll be like, oh, I could just go back to bed now. You won't be productive throughout the day. So that nap, try and have probably like a 20, 25-minute nap. You fall into that sleep cycle, that deep sleep around 30 minutes. Wake yourself up before then. Or if you're one of the ones that knows how to time a nap properly, you can wake up for when that sleep cycle's finishing around that hour and a half mark. It's quite a dodgy territory to do that. But if you know your body and you can get up and you can wake up after a long nap and feel re-energized, try and do it. Otherwise, limit your nap in because you're just in for a recipe for disaster if you wake up mid-sleep cycle.
It does affect your circadian rhythm, and your circadian rhythm has effects on like your hormone profile, so testosterone, cortisol, that kind of thing. You don't want to really mess with that too much. So to keep a bit of regularity in, I would just avoid napping for long periods of time, like Joel said, because then it's just as bad as staying in bed all day. If you have a 3 to 4 hour nap in the day, that's half
sleep.
of that's pretty much a sleep. You're just throwing your circadian rhythm out of whack. So I would avoid that. So 30 minutes. Nobody wants to take a 30-minute nap, but it'll benefit you in the long run.
Yeah. So sleep ticked off, I think. So quick recap. Get out of bed. Don't laze about the next day. Realize that your sleep for that night is probably going to be of lower quality. Might not be of lower quantity, but it will be of lower quality. So make up for that the night before by earning your sleep that night. So get out, go for a walk, be a little bit active, and try wearing an eye mask, things like that black out the room. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Limit your drinking later on in the evening, later on in the night, so you can maybe have that little bit high quality sleep. Who knows? When you binge drink, it's probably redundant anyway. So try not to binge drink.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do.
Part 3. Oh, part 3.
Yeah, ideally just don't binge drink, but obviously we're realists and we know that 90% of the people who drink alcohol are binge drinkers, isn't they? I would say.
Yeah,
I didn't pull that figure from anywhere. Don't quote me on that figure, but
binge drinking.
Most people binge drink.
Yeah,
I binge drink,
and there's a certain quantity of alcohol that you need to consume per week I'm going to Google what is binge drinking now. But while I get onto that topic, the training side of things, we touched a little bit on what to do the day after with, just getting out, doing a little bit of light exercise and avoiding anything too strenuous because your body's not going to be able to recover from it.
Your body's recovering from, like, training is stress, drinking alcohol is stress, having no sleep is stress. Mixing having little sleep with recovering from drinking that amount of alcohol, you don't really want to put another stress on top of that. So you don't want to throw a training session in there. Just light exercise, something that's easy that will help you recover, as opposed to will warrant a long recovery period after it, because you're just simply not going to recover from it. So you're creating more of a downward slope into the abyss of overreaching, really.
Yeah, and I think those active recovery sessions, there's a fine line between active recovery and training, and a lot of people get it wrong.
Yeah.
They think active recovery,
a 5K run.
Yeah, you look at it, a 5K run for someone who's really fit at a slow pace could be active recovery. But just because you're doing a different style of training to what you're normally doing, that doesn't mean it's active recovery. Active recovery means keeping in a certain heart rate zone with a moderate intensity that will warrant you staying in between that heart rate zone and just doing a little bit of work there. Not doing too much to the point where you're fatiguing yourself. Just make sure that the exercise you do isn't intense. Probably your active recovery session, take about 20% off it, and then it'll actually be active recovery. Yeah, random figure, but like I said, so try an active recovery the next day, or the best thing to do is just get up and go for a walk. You'll clear your head a little bit.
Do something around the house, like clean or something.
Yeah, probably tidy up
Stay
for the night before. Yeah, and like we said about going into that point of overreaching, that just simply means you're pulling into a state where you cannot recover from appropriately. This is done by professionals to functionally overreach, where it's planned. You plan to put yourself in halt to get a greater level of super compensation, which means you'll get a better performance. But this is
You've
planned.
got non-functional overreaching as well.
And then
which is what we're talking
non-functional overreaching is what we're chatting about now, where you come into a state of overtraining that you didn't even mean to do, and you've not really realized it. You're not recovering from your training, and you're not getting any better from it. The only training you're getting better from is the ones that you recover from, and you've got to take that into consideration. Sometimes it's best to just mitigate that extra stress and not train.
Yeah, because like me and Joel have discussed the gas principle before. So the gas principle, its application to training is quite grey anyway. But for a visual illustration of what training adaptation looks like, or adaptation in general, you've got the stimulus, which is going to put you into a hole. The deeper you go into that hole, the further you've got to come back out of that. So realistically, you want to keep that a nice steady up and down, up and down, up and down. You don't want to have big troughs and then, where you've got to have a massive requirement to get out of that.
Yeah.
Which is easy. Which is easier done than you think. Like it's easy to slip up.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize it, but they're not actually recovering from their training. I think they think doing more is going to put them, and it's actually just putting them worse into that state of non-functional overreaching. As a little bit of a tangent, anyway. Just make sure that you can recover from your training. But I think the big thing needs to be on your training the day before as well, or the night of, or the day of. You know what I mean? So where would you start with that? Because I know a few of my clients now have gone out and they've enjoyed their beers this weekend, with pubs being open and things. And they've messaged me, God, I feel sore from the training that they've done before, which would normally make them sore. Yeah, you normally wouldn't get sore from it.
I would avoid strength training in general. I would stay away from strength training the night before or the night of. So anything high stress, like squats, deadlifts in that 1 to 5 rep range, I would steer away from. I would steer away from anything that would require a lot of what's the word? I've completely lost that word.
What? Tension? You said mechanical tension, maybe?
No.
Give us a bit of context.
So, like hypertrophy so any structural. Right. So, if you need to recover after a hard hypertrophy session where you've got a lot of DOMs, stay away from that. Basically, anything relatively high intensity or high repeated efforts or a lot of volume, I would stay away from. Anything that's really going to require a relatively large, recovery, stay away from.
Yeah, I think if you know you're going out, let your coach know earlier in the week, and you can try and get your high output stuff done earlier in the week, and maybe leave some of the fluff stuff for that Saturday session. So I know a lot of people like to go out, train a bit of arms, train a bit of delts, get a pump on before you go out, if it makes any difference, because the pump disappears after about 30 seconds anyway. But you can probably save that stuff for that Saturday session, because it does make you feel good. When you're in the gym, you got a pump on, you feel a bit better about yourself, you get excited, you put some good tunes on.
That's the day to do your arms and abs day. If there's any day to do it, it's that day.
And should this take away from your current training? No. But that's why it's better to know in advance if you are going out, because you can get away with doing, you can put the higher stress stuff earlier in the week, and then the things you can recover from, like, your low impact, like, delt training, arm training, things like that, abs. That's why you can generally not worry too much about recovery from, because it's not going to put you in too much of a hole in the first place. But at the same time, don't try and think, say you've got a big Saturday planned, and you're then like, I'll just not do my big Saturday stuff. That could be a really important day for your training. So that's why it's important to try and restructure your little training week around, to make sure that things fit in and you don't actually miss out on the stuff that you need to be doing to get better.
Yeah, I would keep everything towards the start of the week. So just keep the hard stuff as far away from that window as you can. So structure it like you maybe do the strength stuff at the start of the week, or after the training you do it towards the end of the next week, away from that window. Because ultimately you're not going to recover from it, and you're not going to be ready for it the next week either, because like we said, you need to recover from that that sort of like deficit in sleep. Your antioxidants are all out of whack. You're dehydrated, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to touch on. So for me today, in about an hour's time, I got a big squat workout planned. I've got squats, got me some deadlifts, got some of the general heavy lower body stuff that I need to be doing, because I always structure that at the start of a training week when you're fresh. But newsflash, I'm not feeling too good, Mr. Stark. Had a couple of beers on the weekend, didn't listen to my own advice, festered in my own gloop, as Dan said, and now, I'm not in a great place to train. Could I push through the session? Yeah, probably. Am I going to do it? Not sure yet. I'm going to get under, see how the barbell feels, get moving a little bit, get active, see how things feel. But I've got a plan B where if this doesn't go to plan, I'm going to probably try and train some of my upper body stuff. Still do my strength work, but get some upper body stuff in where you don't have to be as switched on, because getting under a heavy barbell is quite daunting. Whereas pressing the barbell, rowing it, maybe taking a bit of emphasis away from barbell movements. This could be a time where you implement machines, where you haven't got that stability aspect, things like that. They will all come into play. So you might be able to just generate a little bit more output from a machine, rather than worrying too much.
I got a little idea for you.
Go on then.
Use that little apparatus Steve just purchased. The push band.
Yeah, because I was going to say, this is where reps in reserve, your judgment will be clouded by drinking alcohol. So the lack of sleep, the lack of recovery, the lack of good nutrition could influence the way you perceive that barbell to feel. So for those that use reps in reserve training, I know a lot of my clients do, that reps in reserve number will be considerably lower, which means you'll find the set harder than you normally would. That's where a push band, where you actually get that objective feedback rather than the subjective personal opinion of yourself, could come in handy and tell you where you need to be training for that day. So like Dan said, that's probably what I'm going to do. Throw on a push band, see where my estimated 1 rep max is, and then work off that rather than the planned pushing the logbook that I normally would.
Mm-hmm.
But training, any other little nuggets of knowledge? I think that's pretty much.
We've covered everything. We can do a little recap if you want.
So we'll do we'll start off with a brief recap on training. So avoid any high output stuff the day of / night before you go out drinking. This means your strength stuff, your heavy hypertrophy stimuluses. Maybe switch it for some of the fluff stuff, chest flies, things like that, rear delt raises, lateral raises, arm stuff, the general stuff where you feel good with the pump on. Then be prepared to be a little bit undercooked for your subsequent training sessions, and try and get an active recovery on that hangover day, which means taking probably 20% off your planned active recovery stuff and just get moving. Getting moving will make you feel a little bit better. So that's the recap for training. As a whole, I think it's important to say we don't advocate binge drinking, but we understand that as a uni student, myself, and as Dan's a friend of mine, he knows that is going to happen. If you're young, pubs are just opening back up as well. Things are now exciting again. You can actually go do a bit more. Just be sensible with your drinking. That's probably the most important thing. And any of the points you mentioned is better trying to implement some of them rather than all of them. You know what I mean? Do what you can manage. But at the end of the day, you're here to enjoy yourself. If you've got massive competitions coming up, you're prepping for a bodybuilding show, avoid it. If you're not, live your life, make the sensible decisions around your alcohol consumption. That's going to leave you better off than just going in blind. The damage you're doing, or the damage you're doing, is better than the damage you don't, or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
To butcher that quote, I'm going to say it
at
again.
At least you understand the process and what is actually going on.
Yeah, so I'm going to say it again. The damage you don't know you're doing. Oh, right, fuck it. The damage you're doing is better. The damage you know you're doing is better than the damage you don't know you're doing. There.
Everyone a round of applause for Joel.
Third time lucky. But any other final little snippets for alcohol?
I just say understand, rather than looking at it as training, black and white, as in training and recovering, look at it more as stress as a whole. So drinking alcohol is a stress. Sleep, stress. Well, sleep isn't a stress, but having a decline in sleep is a stress. Training is a stress. During that period of, you've been on the beverages, you want to mitigate as much stress as possible. So you don't want to be adding any unnecessary stress. You've already added alcohol in as a stress, so you don't want to add then another training session in there to recover from. It's just going to leave you out of training, out of the groove for a little bit longer. So the quicker you can get back to normality, the better. I know people just want to get straight back to it. They go hard on the diet, they go hard on the training as soon as that sort of night out is over. Stay away from that, and it'll just benefit you in the long run, because the more you can stay on that sort of
sleep recovery curve.
It's just
probably better.
Yeah.
Stress recovery curve. Sorry, not sleep.
Well, there's me agreeing with you. Actually, yeah.
But I think that covers that topic, because we love to ramble on. We actually, we'll introduce now. I'm going to go get. You got your energy drink ready, bro?
I haven't got one today. I did purchase an energy drink for today, guys, but then I realised that it had 0 caffeine in it.
Right, just for clarity, right, cool. We've never had the sour apple rain on here, have we?
Anyway, what I was saying, I've already tried the all of the rain, so I can give you a review, but I just can't do it live.
Yeah, but we've never had one of these on here yet, have we? Just to clarify.
Not the apple, no.
Right, good. So, right, we're going to resume. Resuming in 3, 2, 1. Thank you for listening to our brief interlude from our sponsor.
We haven't got one. We haven't got a sponsor.
So if anyone wants to sponsor the podcast, maybe some energy drink company that we actually, can review then, because we're pretty useless at this energy drink review. We'd actually have some content to review. But for now, we've got a sour apple rain. On the last episode, we spoke about taking a trip to that shop in Blackwood for energy drinks, and it was probably one of the biggest letdowns in 2020, and there's been a load.
It was the same as every petrol garage that I've ever been to.
Yeah. But we did get some energy drinks for you. So the Rain Sour Apple. Ready? ASMR.
I feel like the UK has got a really shit selection of energy drinks anyway. Like America.
Hang on, Dan. We're going for an ASMR by here, bro. And carry on.
I was just saying, I feel like the UK is just a bit rubbish when it comes to drinks like that.
Yeah, big
like
time.
In America, you can buy Bang in a shop. You know the Bang energy drinks. You can buy them in like stores. You can buy 3D.
I've
in
never
the
tried
shops.
that yet. Never tried that yet. No.
Bang's a good one. Yeah, Bang's a really good one.
So we're gonna get on with El Caffeine Del Beverage Review. So we've had the range on you. We're gonna go through again. 200 milligram of caffeine, 500 milliliter can. Calories per can, 16. That is 4 gram of 4 gram of carbs, 1.1 gram of protein. So there's some protein in here for you keto drinkers out there. So we've got the sour apple, and we're just going to take a taste. I haven't actually tried the sour apple one yet, so this is new to me.
Have you tried any of the rains?
Yeah. Not a big fan usually. Too artificial sweetener. Like you said, Willy Wonka's Flow. I've had the Willy Wonka's Flow one.
Willy Wonka's Flow. Ooh. Have a bigger sip than that. Come on.
No, that's the initial sip. All right. Shotgun it down. Hey.
Eyebrows.
That is actually very pleasant.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Try drinking a full can of that, though.
That's what I mean. I don't like the big cans. But that taste, I think everyone can relate. It tastes like apple sours.
Yeah.
And I'm quite partial to an apple sour.
But if you think of it, half a can of that is pretty much that akin to a full can of Monster. So what's in a can of Monster? It's like 130 milligrams of caffeine in it per can.
No, 210. 210, I think.
No, there isn't.
We're one of
the Monster Ultra is like 130 milligrams of caffeine, bro.
How much caffeine?
It's 30 milligrams per 100 mil.
And then there's at least 500 mil, so that makes it at least 150.
Yeah, it's not 210, bro. I know that.
So there's 150 milligram in the Ultra Sunrise. Ultra Blue is 140 milligram. The Zero Ultra is 140 milligram. So yeah, we're looking at about 140 milligram. Oh, hang on. Zero Ultra clocks in at 1,400 milligram per serving or 2,800 milligram per can.
That'd put you in hospital. That's 2 grams. Definitely a typing error there. 2,800 milligrams would put you in the emergency room, bro.
I know. What?
I don't know if anyone's ever taken too much caffeine before, but it's the worst feeling ever.
Yeah, don't trust anything you read. Yeah, there's about 150 milligram in a Monster.
Kind of Monster, so, right? Fair enough.
And at the same time, I'm not really a big fan of Monsters anymore either. I just feel like the big can. I think the fitness drinks have downsized rapidly to that 330 ml can.
Have they?
And I think that's where they're going to stay. So like you got your Knockos, you've got your what's that other one? I think it might just be Knockos.
It's just Knockos. I'm pretty sure it's just the Knocko, mate. But yeah,
no, you got your Red Bulls.
Yeah, but they don't lead in the fitness beverage, do they?
No. I tell you what, right? I'm gonna give. Go on.
I still think 3D are leading the pack on the energy drink front.
Yeah, all right. I really retract my statement about cans going to 330 ml. The only can is Knocko, and I take that back. But I'm going to give my little review on the Reagn Apple. so this is my review on the Reagn Apple.
Reagn.
Right. Taste is probably like a 7 out of 10. You know, I thoroughly enjoy the taste of this. I'm not going to go with 10 because it's quite an artificial feeling to it. It's not like a smooth drink. It's still artificially, but it's really nice. I would drink this again. Fitness ability, I think big can with the 200 milligram of caffeine, bumps it up slightly. So we're probably looking at about a 7 out of 10 on the fitness ability as well.
I feel like 500 milliliters of liquid isn't that much. It's just this. It's just what's in it, like the taste and the carbonation. It just doesn't make for an easy drink. Like 500 milliliters of pre-workout, that's fine.
Yeah,
I feel like
and a pint is fine as well. Like, you can chug down a pint, can't you? But yeah, I'm just being a little baby, I think. I just don't like the mix of carbonation, taste, and the
yeah, I agree with that.
So, I forgot what we rate these on, to be honest. So we got taste, fitness ability, and can. The can is
aesthetics.
Quite appealing.
It's all right. I like the texture of the can.
Yeah.
It's like a little
bumpy,
anodized steel kind of, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I think can aesthetics probably about 5 out of 10. Nothing too doesn't jump out to you. But that concludes this week's fitness drink beverage review of Energy Week. And I think that concludes episode 10 of the Archive podcast. It's been a productive one. And I think this is going to, with indoors of pubs opening up on the 3rd of August as well, this might be worth hitting save and downloading for that, so you can just refresh your memory on some of the things you need to be doing. We talk training, nutrition, and sleep.
Another little caveat for the drinking considerations, do you know, because most pubs have got like a 2-hour slot.
Yeah.
Try not to take it. Don't take the piss when you're on that 2-hour slot. Like, don't
feel like you need to play catch up.
Yeah, like don't like net 10 beers in like 2 hours because you're gonna be ill.
I think the general advice is,
or do, and I'll be pretty impressed.
Yeah, I think just don't be a knobhead when it comes to it, innit?
Legend.
Yeah, just don't be a knobhead. It's about being better, not perfect, but there are some decisions that you can make. Like, don't go out and just be that guy, the knobhead. You know what I mean? Just take your time with it. Enjoy yourself. Pubs are opening back up. Like, go out, enjoy yourself by all means, but, have a little bit of a think about if you're being a knobhead or not.
Yeah. One of life's great quotes. Don't be a knobhead.
I'm going to be able to post with that one day.
I think it was Gandhi that said that,
I thought it was
Martin Luther King.
Yeah, MLK, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could have been Jesus. Don't be a knobhead, Jesus.
0 BC.
19 AD. Oh, AD. He said that after he died as well.
Yeah. Right. That has been episode 10 of the Archive podcast. I've been Joel Harris, PT.
I've been Dan Evans, PT.
And I think we need your support in the breakdown, which is probably going to go down this Friday. So tune over onto the archive.podcast Instagram to feature in that. Get your questions in, anything surrounding this podcast. I think it'll be a bit more of a light-hearted one because we're chatting alcohol, so people like to know what we're up to probably after a few beers. Mm-hmm. But that has been episode 10. Thank you for listening, and we shall see you all next week.
Goodbye and much love.